to the track, the wall, makes the leap, and makes the catch! Amazing catch by Junior! He got it! A perfect game! 13 strikeouts! Line pitching out towards straightaway center field, drifting out toward right center, shot at the wall, leaps up, and he makes the catch! Mike Trout with another spectacular grab! There is out number 2. Bonds hit play high. Hits it deep. It is out of here. 7:56. What a special moment for Barry Bonds. Swinging a long drive. Deep to right. Going. Goodbye. He has done it. He has changed the game of the night.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Champions Adjust podcast with me, your host, and with my co-host, the hosts of the Champions Adjust podcast. I'm Aaron Mashkowitz, aka Jaxon Stone. This is Coach David Bodzin,
aka Coach David Bodzin.
Exactly. And this is Season 2, Episode 10 of the Champions Adjust podcast. Thank you for coming back and joining us on this baseball-specific podcast where we cover everything from bat flips to short hops, specifically covering youth baseball. And we're getting into some details today, some coaching tips, some pitching tips, some hitting tips, a couple mindset tips. And this will be a short episode, but we just want to say what's up, catch you up a little bit, and then go from there.
Miss you guys. This is, do we call this the last episode? We usually have 10 episodes a season, right? Mm-hmm. This is number 10.
Yeah, this is number 10 of Season 2. So we'll probably take a little bit of a break, but then through the summer, we're going to try and do some guest series.
Yeah.
All the way leading up to our October series, which we'll do MLB postseason special edition episodes.
Do you want to interview each other? We can be each other's guests on this, too.
I think we should do that.
It'd be a nice little reminder to our listeners of who we are.
I think our audience wants to know a little bit more about each of us and our baseball story.
I would love that, for sure.
So we'll do that. We'll start off with that, and then we'll bring in some other guests heading into the summer. And then again, we'll do our second installment of our postseason episodes because those were really popular last year, and Bodzin and I had a really good time doing that this year when MLB baseball gets really quite fun.
It's always fun. Do you want to go talk about our unofficial sponsor?
This podcast I was about to say Jaxon Talks.
Do that over again. No, pick it back up. Okay, go again.
You want?
See it then. Want to do our sponsorship?
Yes, this episode of the Champions Adjust podcast is sponsored by Airheads. Unofficially, officially, unofficially, officially, unofficially, unofficially, officially, unofficially, officially, unofficially, unofficially, officially, unofficially, officially, unofficially, but unofficially, really, really officially, unofficially sponsored by Airheads. Soft bites. Airheads. Airheads.
This specific bag. Fun fact for all you listeners: I'm very against trying to hit home runs. I just if you try to strike somebody out, you tense up, right? Mm-hmm. If you try to hit home run, elbow drops, and a lot of times you're going to pop up, right? So I like to challenge our players of hey, this is an Airhead can. I love candy. My dentist, who's a good friend of mine, does not like that I love candy all the time. It's more money in his pocket, so what does he care? But shout out Ellis Schwartz, Ellis Schwartz DDS, if you're in the Dallas area looking for a good dentist.
This podcast is
not sponsored by it, but I'm going to give a little plug to my boy Ellis Schwartz, and if he wants to give me a kickback for some Airhead soft bites, then yeah, I'm in for that. So basically bet them listen, if you don't hit 2 home runs, then you got to give me this candy. But if you do, I'll give you candy, right? And the psychological aspect of that is that they're going to try and probably not succeed because they're trying. Mm-hmm. And so I just get free candy every practice, and it's amazing. So this specific bag is from Weston Williams, our last game of the year. Good old Cinny came over to me and goes, "Coach, I'm going to hit 2 home runs this game." I'm like, okay. It's 250 down the right field line, whatever. All right, cool. If you do, I'll get you 2 bags of whatever candy you want. But if you don't, you got to give me 1 bag of whatever candy I want. He goes, okay, bet. You got it. Well, he goes, I think 1 for 3. Mm-hmm. 2 hard hit balls, nothing came close to a home run.
Right.
And that night, he went and got me the wrong bag of candy, which I still have because I don't actually like this version of candy, but I still have it.
Well, speaking
I could
of
choose a lot more.
Speaking of home runs, and hitting home runs,
Sure.
let's go to a tweet here from
Is that the guy who doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame?
From the greatest home run hitter /
Arguably
greatest
hitter of all time.
Arguably
Barry
the best
Bonds. Baseball player to ever exist.
7 MVPs.
Uh-huh.
The next person has about 3.
Sure.
And Barry Bonds, says his 3 keys to hitting is basically that when he was hitting, he felt like the bat was an extension of his arm, so that he could be short to the ball. He could feel where he wanted to hit at contact. And his 3 keys are keep your hands up, stay short, stay balanced. Right? And then to wrap all of that up in a bow is basically to be on time. Right? As a hitter, those are kind of your big keys. And so I don't need to say any more about that. Barry Bonds is a much better hitter than I ever was. And he's the greatest of all time. But I do want to basically segue that into you, Coach Bodzin.
Yeah.
You're a pitcher. You're a pitching coach. You give pitching lessons. You work with the pitchers on our staff.
Yeah.
That's your specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some guideposts, some pillars that you work through when working with a guy? Because I know everyone's different. Everyone has different body types.
And strike everybody out.
But besides throwing strikes and striking everyone out,
it's that simple, right?
Of course, it's that simple.
Just hit a bunch of home runs, guys. Like, what's so freaking hard about this? Yeah, I have.
So where do you work from?
When I work with a kid, I really try to keep it simple, like this, right? Keep your hands up, stay short, stay balanced. So when I first start working with a pitcher, it takes me 1 to 2 sessions to really look at what they're doing and diagnose, right? Because my job, and I'll compare this to therapy. My job is to not necessarily change everything about you, but make you more efficient based on what makes you comfortable, using a very core aspect of what you should be doing on the mound. And if you do these core 4 things and you do things the right way and you work hard, then you're going to be more effective. And eventually I'm going to be at a point where you don't really need to see me anymore. Like, you go to a therapist and the therapist doesn't see you every single week for 3 years. It might be bi-weekly for a couple months, and then hey, things are getting better, but I don't really need to see you that much. And so, we talked about being an arm doctor, etc. But my big thing is number 1, I have, and these are kids, right? I would not necessarily teach a 22-year-old the same way I teach a 12-year-old. But lift and go, right? I want you to lift and keep your hips going forward. And when I say that, a lot of pitchers of that age like to rear back, right? And what problem with rearing back is you take all your momentum backwards, which effectively causes you to shorten your step, which now forces you to somehow get your body over, which you really can't do on a short step. So lift and keep your momentum going forward so you can extend your step, your initial step out. As you get here, so you're at this balance point, but you're further out. And the reason for that also, kids who might be listening, is it easier to hit a baseball when the ball is released this far away or this far away? Where do you have more reaction time? So as a pitcher, you want to get as close to here as possible on your extension out.
Right.
So extend out. And then once you get to foot strike, I want you to take your glove to the target. That's going to help with your accuracy, right? I'm not pulling because I'm overthrowing. I'm not opening up too early. I'm getting the foot strike and I'm taking my glove to the target. From there, now I'm taking my chest to my glove. Everything's going forward. And then as I release out, I need my back hips to really push everything forward. Velocity, a good changeup, a good breaking ball, good location. It all comes from the hips. Right, so I talk about, remember Mario Kart? You go over those little things and it just boosts you?
Yeah.
That's the hips, right? Same thing for hitting.
Right.
You don't hit with just hands. You don't throw with just your arm. I always tell kids when I first work with them that, you have a baseball?
No, cool.
What the heck? I got 5 in my car right now. Baseball is attached, is in your hand, which just happens to be attached to your forearm, which just happens to be attached to your shoulder. Right? Which is a part of your body. This is just kind of hanging here. This is going to do what this stuff tells you to do. So the core 4 things that I tell you to do, lift and go, extend out, glove to the target, chest to the glove, and use the back hips. Those core 4 have nothing to do with your arm. Right? And nothing did I say you need to put your arm here or there. Your hand is just attached to it all that's holding the baseball. And then what you do with your body, it's all an extension. So do those core 4, and I have kids really talk to themselves on the mound. Core 4, core 4, core 4. Lift and go. Everything towards back hips. If we're doing those core 4 and we're not rearing back and trying to overthrow, and we're trusting our body, because that's another thing I talk to the kids about.
Yeah.
Aaron Moshpitz, you're on the mound. Nothing you do on the mound now is going to help you throw harder than what your body can already do.
Right.
Your body's going to throw the ball as hard as it can if we do things the right way. The weight room, that's where, in the off season, off the mound, that's where you're going to get your velocity from, right?
You're building to that point.
Exactly. So now you're on the mound. You've already done everything you can to get the velocity out. So relax. Another thing I tell the kids, there's a huge push and pull. You need to have competitive intensity. You have to be relaxed.
Yes.
Talk about boxers. Boxers have to relax their bodies to punch, right? If I throw a punch and I'm tense and I'm throwing everything tense, then all of a sudden all these muscles tense up and I can't get the full velocity that I need.
It's the same thing. They're getting their power here.
Exactly.
But their upper bodies are loose.
They have to be very loose in there. So tell that with the pitchers. Take a deep breath, relax, let your body do the work. Don't throw your glove to the side and then throw the ball 20 feet that way. Or if my lefty's 20 feet that way. Don't get so excited to throw that you start moving your hips before you even get the foot strike and you open up and your arm releases out here.
Right.
Get the foot strike, reach all the way out, bring everything forward, and those back hits your Mario Kart booster. Especially when you're throwing a breaking ball in an off-speed pitch. Because if you try to slow your body down, one of those things goes off and you lead everything up and hanging. Without hips is how you get a hanging breaking ball. You see a lot of pitchers get into those 80, 90, 100 pitch counts and they start hanging the breaking balls because they're exhausted.
They're tired.
Those back hips don't work anymore. So Adam Wainwright, Uncle Charlie,
Right.
he struggles in that 90 mark to get those, so he starts running a lot of two-seamers and sinkers because he can control that a lot more than his curveball late in the games because his hips and his lower body are exhausted. That is a very short 5-minute crash course of what I spend a few weeks really hitting in. There's specific drills that I work with kids on to learn how to do that.
Right.
So by week 4, week 5, we're seeing a vast improvement, and we keep on doing it through week 8, and dude, you're in good shape.
What stands out to me, kind of listening to your approach, because I don't really remember. You were my pitching coach when I was young, and I don't remember what you told me.
Sure.
Well, I was the same age that we coach now, and you were just a couple years older than me.
Right.
I thought you were the coolest guy ever. My mom really liked you. Right, great.
Yeah, great.
Obviously, she was right. But what registers with me is because I've heard you use these phrases on the field. Right. So now it makes sense to me because you dove deep into what those phrases mean at your lessons. So when you reiterate them in 2 or 3 words, you're not saying blah, 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 like 8 sentences, right? So you're overwhelming a kid. Right. You're just saying, hey, lift, go.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I know what that means. We went over it a couple days ago. So that's really important because there's this thing in when you're focusing on your mental training and you're trying to get locked in on a focus, you do this thing called ABCs of focus. Basically, it's like you're picking 3 things that are really quick that are going to remind you to get locked in.
Right.
So say you're about to go pitch and you're walking out to the bump. Okay, what are my 3 things that I want to focus on? I want to lift and go, play catch, be relaxed. That's all you're focusing on, and everything else takes care of the rest, right? So you're just picking, I'm in the field, okay? I want to get my prep step, I want to play catch, I want to get my glove out in front. Right? So these are just 3 quick things, ABCs of focus, that you're going to tell yourself right before you do the activity. And you can say it between every pitch, and it's not going to overwhelm you. It's just getting you locked into some specific keys. And so that's what I thought about when you were talking about that. I think that's really quite cool.
Yeah, I think the thing is with youth baseball and in general, right? Pitching is not an easy thing to do. We can all agree that when you balance everything out to the pressures that come with it, everybody's watching you. What you do, every single pitch affects the entire game.
Yeah.
Right? It's a high pressure situation. So my job as a pitching coach is to teach you how to be your own pitching coach. Right? I tell kids all the time. I ask them, who's the best pitching coach you have? Coach, no, it's not me. It's you. I am teaching you to be your own coach on the mound.
Right.
Because I can't be out there with you. Now, if I happen to coach you in actual games, yeah, I can say those 3. Hey, lift and go. Hey,
right, you can
breathe or relax. Hey, everything forward. Hey, get those back hips moving. Hey, everything with your hips. Like, those are little reminders. But if I'm not there, Vinny Weber, best example. 2 really solid outings he had. I wasn't there, but I'm his pitching coach.
Right.
And I worked very hard with him to say, hey, when you're out there, what are you telling yourself? 3 things. We just talked about the mental ABCs.
Right.
3 things we write down that I want you to remind yourself before every time you go on the mound. What are we doing? Weston Williams goes, I think it's a pound the down. It's lift and go, use the back hips, pound the down zone. The 3 things he tells himself every time he gets on the mound, right? Because it's such a complicated, high pressure situation when you're on the mound that remembering 10 things at once, it's too much. So when you have a tweet that goes out that Barry Bonds, the best hitter to ever exist, just told himself, keep your hands up, stay short, stay balanced.
Those are his
I got a kid who's up there, hey, relax, back hips, pound the down zone. Those are the 3 things that help you remember the things that we've worked on constantly. Then that's going to allow you to stay relaxed in the mound. Right. Because again, pitching really is a good balance of competitive nature and wanting to do it versus staying relaxed. Go watch Clayton Kershaw pitch, man. That dude is so relaxed in the mound, but as soon as he toes the rubber, he's locked in.
Right.
Then he gets off, he's chilling. Yeah, locked in. Scherzer, same way. And then he goes to the first step back. But then as he hits foot strike, everything's just so long and relaxed. 96 miles per hour.
Right.
Just because all that work that went into it, and everybody's relaxed as we compete.
You think when you get up to like certain elite levels, like that's the difference between someone who is a Cy Young winner and someone who has the potential to be a Cy Young winner is those pitch-to-pitch adjustments?
Yes.
Right? If you see Clayton Kershaw throw 2 balls that just don't look like him, he knows why, and he's making the adjustment each pitch.
No pitcher in any game has ever had everything working at the same time, right? Pitching, and I'm pretty sure Michael Schlack has a tweet somewhere in his thousands of tweets he has now about how pitching is all about competing and making adjustments. Max Scherzer doesn't get on the mound and have the same pitch working every single at bat or every single game. He gets out there in the first 3 innings, he's figuring out what works for him. And then he's using that. And you know what? Hey, my curveball's not working much today. Okay, I'm going to use it only in specific out situations, like 0-2 situations, right? As an out pitch, as a waste pitch. Because it's not working for me today. So I'm not going to force it to work. I'm going to compete with what I have today and go. One of the coolest pieces of advice I ever got, and it wasn't advice for me because I was never close to being a Major League Baseball player, but it was from a 8-year Major Leaguer by the name of Cameron Lowe, another guy who might be a good guest for us, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he told me the difference between getting to the major leagues and staying in the major leagues is your mental approach, is your mental fortitude, your mental strength, your ability to make adjustments. Because AAA is basically major league talent who can't consistently hone into that.
Right.
The major leaguers are guys who consistently can compete at the level they need to compete at. So are you able to stick in the major leagues? Well, everybody knows you have the talent. Can you mentally figure out a way to stay up there?
Right.
Because there's a guy in AA who has the same talent as you, but might be mentally stronger.
Yeah.
Guess what? He's going to take your job within 6 months.
Right. That's the difference maker, right? Yeah. That's really the difference maker. The intangibles, right? The invisible traits that you can't see but you can feel is how much time, effort, and energy you put into your mental fitness. How much mental toughness do you have? And what kind of foundation have you built your mental skills on?
Right.
And that's the difference maker when everyone has the same amount of talent. It can be a difference maker also in youth baseball and high school baseball and college baseball.
Sure.
But you can also get away with just being physically gifted.
Yes.
I don't recommend that.
Right.
But you can get away with it. But if you want to be the best in the world at something, only cultivating your body and neglecting your mind is going to be a hollow victory, and you're going to get shot down pretty quickly.
Another thing that we see a lot from kids, though, that's how I get candy. Trying to hit 500 feet every time, right? Or I have kids or pitchers who are trying to throw 85 miles per hour. And, we had a kid this past season who could throw 83, 84. Just couldn't throw for strikes. And I very straightforward said, I don't give a shit how hard you throw if you can't throw a first strike.
Right.
If you throw 73-74 and paint the zone versus 83-84 and walk everybody, which do you think I prefer as a coach? And which would you prefer?
Right.
Which would you prefer to do? And so, sometimes I'll show the kids who try to overthrow too much. I'll show them Greg Maddox.
Yep.
Dude didn't throw hard. He knew how to paint the zone really well. He was a pitcher. A pitcher's pitcher.
Wasn't a thrower.
That dude got up there. You can argue that Ardallis Chapman right now is just a big thrower right now of his career. He's a big thrower. He throws hard, and sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Greg Maddox was a pitcher, man. He doesn't really... There's such an emphasis on people throwing 101 miles per hour now because as soon as you hit 90, those D1 offers start coming in.
Right.
Everybody wants that D1 offer. Well, would you rather sit on the bench at a D1 or start at a D2? Is the difference between 3 miles per hour, right? I know that's a whole different conversation, right?
Yes.
I'm getting into a whole different aspect of it. But stop trying to throw so hard because number one, when you're on the mound trying to overthrow means you will not locate your pitches at all. And if you throw the ball 83, 84 at 13, 14 years old, guess what? It's going to be waist high and a home run. Because the harder it comes in, the harder it goes out. And our hitters know that very well. Especially when you get to the wood bat ages.
Yep.
The harder it comes in, the harder it goes out. Versus, Steven Medrano, who I worked really hard with since January to get him to stop trying to freaking throw the ball so hard. You want to work out a lot and throw harder that way? Great. When you're on the mound, spot the ball. And towards the end of the season, dude was throwing hard.
Griffin Savello,
pitcher. Just got up there and went. Didn't care how hard he threw. He just wanted to spot the ball.
Hudson Holt, really good.
Yeah. There were a few innings throughout the season where he tried to overthrow.
Sure.
And he walked a bunch of dudes.
Of course that's going to happen.
Grady Holmes is such an effective pitcher when he's just going.
Yeah, that's just a mentality shift that they're going to learn as they progress as pitchers. They get into more intense environments, right? And everyone's kind of throwing the same kind of speed, right? So it's about how can you locate your fastball and set that up to locate your changeup, and then spot up your whatever breaking ball. That's why I tell kids,
Coach, I want to learn the slider. Hey, can you throw your fastball on a changeup for a strike
all the time?
Because if you can't, then you don't need a breaking ball because high school athletes can't hit a well-placed fastball changeup duo.
No, it's really, really quite hard to hit.
And especially because a good changeup moves.
And it looks exactly like your fastball.
Right. A good fastball, a good changeup, they both move. Why do I need to teach you a slider if you can't throw those two consistently for a strike?
Yeah.
Learn to do that first.
If you can own those two pitches, you're going to be a very, very successful high school pitcher and beyond.
And then go get a slider. Let's talk about Neftali Feliz was a closer for the Texas Rangers when they were going to the World Series. I had him in Double-A, and he threw the ball 101 miles per hour, 102.
Yeah.
Couldn't throw a changeup, couldn't throw a breaking ball.
Right.
So they changed him from a starter to a reliever. And they basically was like, hey, you're a reliever, don't throw a fastball. We know you can throw it. And he would go games without throwing fastballs. And he'd get tanked throwing hanging changeups and hanging curveballs. Learn how to do it. And once he learned how to own a changeup and a curveball, and I think it was a slider that he had, he became a good major league closer for a few years there.
Right, yeah, he was very dominant.
He was a good major league baseball closer once he figured out how to use a changeup. Because then he was able to use a slider. But before that, they were like, dude, we know you throw 101, 102. Doesn't matter if it can't throw a secondary pitch.
Right.
And a third pitch if you want to be a good closer. That's, and that's just to say the kids who are listening, it's not just you. Future and past major leaguers and current major leaguers struggle with this. It's not an easy thing to do by any means. Nobody says it's easy to do. It's very easy to talk about. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. Work on what you can control. Work on your fastball. Work on your changeup. If you master those,
build from there.
But shoot, if you can master all three of those pitches, you're not giving up a whole lot of hits.
Yeah.
You're just not.
And then continue to put your effort into the weight room, into sprints, into speed and agility. All of that matters. Trusting yourself, engaging in the process, learning how to be resilient through hard innings, right? And figuring out those kinds of obstacles and using that pressure as a privilege to drive you to be the best pitcher you can be, or baseball player, hitter, whatever it is. Yeah. So.
Ooh, breaking news. The All-Star Game is set to take place in Los Angeles next week, but concession workers at Dodgers may not be there as they are going to strike.
Oh. Well,
Reminder to all business owners: treat your employees fairly and your contract employees fairly.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anything else you got to say, Coach?
no, that's it for me.
Well, to wrap up this episode, Season 10, Episode 2, to wrap up this episode,
Season 2, episode 10.
Season 2, Episode 10,
Oh.
excuse me.
Yep.
We have some new merchandise on the website at champsadjust.com. We have 2 performance or workout t-shirts, one in black, one in white. They're pretty cool. I suggest you go check them out if you're looking to work out in some Champions Adjust gear. And then we also have the 4 shorts that we've talked about on previous episodes. Black, gray, red, and navy are now all available on the website. You can look at those. You can purchase them. And then there's also the other stuff that's been available on the website for a while, but those are in limited supply. Those new stuff is all available and will be available throughout the summer. And then we'll do some stuff probably come winter for some other merch. Those are some brand new items that are on the website. I urge you to check it out. And subscribe to the newsletter at champsadjust.com, because we will be sending out a newsletter every single Wednesday with something from me about mindset, something from potentially Coach Bodzin about pitching or just coaching in general. Will just be nuggets of wisdom for you to read every Wednesday. And on some weeks it'll be followed by, if you are a subscriber, you'll get the podcast directly in your email on the Thursday when we do drop that. But that's not every week. The newsletter will be every Wednesday. So we're just trying to engage in a little bit more content, become more familiar with our customers and our listeners and people who support the pod, the brand, everything that we do.
We appreciate you.
So that's just a few things we have going in motion. We look forward to that. And we look forward to having some guests on the pod.
Yes.
Talking about with those guys and all that good stuff.
You know who our best guest is going to be in about 6 weeks?
Who's that?
Mark Bodzin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, baby Bods.
He's
5
so-
weeks away right now.
Is he right here?
Yeah. Fuck it, yeah. Why not?
Beautiful.
Love it. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining. Thanks for listening. Hope we didn't bore you. And don't ever forget that
Champions Adjust.
Champions Adjust.